Hey everyone, this is me Rachit and I graduated from IIT Roorkee as an electrical engineer in 2017, and then I really worked a lot in different companies as a software engineer across different tech stacks and different roles. Now there are a few things which I have learned when you talk about higher education, masters, and when I was at IIT Roorkee I used to see a lot of my friends, they used to prepare for GRE and go to foreign universities to pursue computer science. And then I also saw that when I was working as software developer, a lot of people work for around 2 years and they gain experience as a software developer, and then they again apply to foreign universities for higher education like masters in computer science or something like that. Now, I was never able to generate that clarity and I never needed. Luckily, I was able to do well as a software developer. So I really did not put enough thoughts or aspirations towards pursuing masters. But I know that a lot of people have this problem and they really do not know. Masters is really a black box for them. They don't know what to expect out of it. So that's why I paired with my friend Surag Nair, and he has really interesting profile. Like, he graduated from IIT Delhi in 2017, so same batch. He also did from electrical engineering, but then he took a different route. He went to Stanford University for masters in 2017, and now he is again doing PhD from there. So he really has a good profile when you talk about higher education, and Stanford is a really well-known university across the world. So I thought of interviewing him and clear up a lot of doubts. So that's what we are going to do today. So I am from India, I'm over here, and Surag is in Stanford University in USA. And today's video is really interesting. We are going to cover a lot of questions. This is going to be a really long video, so we have decided to split it across multiple parts. But the overall things that we are planning to cover are something like this. So we'll be starting with masters, like why do we do masters, what exactly we have to expect from masters, and how we should prepare for it, and how this overall system works. The next thing that we are going to talk about is how expensive masters is, because it's in USA and the amounts can be something like 40 lakhs. Then we will also be talking about the impact and career benefits masters have for software developers. Like, today's world, Google and every company is removing criteria of having a degree. So after all, should we really do this? So that's what we are going to cover. Then we will cover some tips on preparation and cover letter. Then mistakes to avoid in college. Then this one is really interesting. This is about how is the crowd different between IITs and Indian universities as compared to Stanford. Then we will also cover hiring differences in IITs and Stanford. Then he also did PhD from Stanford, like he is doing that. So we'll also covering that section. And then we'll also be talking about tips for making your profile impressive for recruiters. Like, a lot of people have interest in machine learning, neural networks. So what should they do to make their profile impressive? And again, this is really important, conflicting thoughts, because when people are doing masters, they can see that a lot of their batchmates are doing really good as a software developer. So a lot of times conflicting thoughts might come into the minds of people who are either preparing for masters or people who are actually pursuing masters. So yeah guys, we have a lot of things to cover, and we have decided to split the video in multiple parts. So in part 1 we will see how much we can cover. Other than that, Surag was really nice, so please show some love and smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. Hey everyone, this is me Rachit and welcome to yet another video. Today I have a really special friend of mine. We had been friends from class 11th and 12th. We were preparing for IIT together, and then he got into IIT Delhi and I went to IIT Roorkee. Ever since then, this is the first time like I'm also like having a video call with him. So this video is like really special to me. And with that, like, Surag, would you like to introduce yourself to my audience first?
Yeah. Hi, Rachit. Thanks for having me on your channel. I'm Surag. I'm a second-year PhD student at Stanford University. Yeah, as Rachit said, we met when we were preparing for the JEE, and I did electrical engineering at IIT Delhi. After which, I got interested in CS, some ML, NLP, and even computational biology. And after that, I did my master's at Stanford, focusing on computational biology. And I'm working in a lab that works at the intersection of machine learning and biology. So that's a bit about me.
Yeah, so in like you have so many of keywords that a lot of students are really passionate about, like machine learning, biology, IIT Delhi, Stanford, masters, PhD. So you have so many of cool keywords. Like, how does it feel, first of all?
Yeah, I think I feel extremely lucky. I understand that a lot of it has just been, of course, there has been hard work that I put in. I feel, but a lot of it, of course, was just chance and luck. So, for the most part, I feel lucky more than anything else.
Yeah, and I remember I think I also used to tell you this when we were preparing for JEE, like you are really modest. Like you are doing so many great things and you are like, yeah, it's fine. I mean, a lot of people do this and yeah, it's okay. I mean, it's not that big a deal. And you always try to push yourself towards like there are so many other people who are doing even better work. So you probably try to, get motivation and like really improve yourself as a person, I think.
I think the great part about being at places like IIT Delhi, like Stanford, is that you're always surrounded by people who are better than you in some aspect or another, and so there's always someone to look up to, something to learn, and keep improving yourself. Because if you want to get to where someone else is, you need to work on yourself. So uh, these places really humble you, and it's one of the great parts about being in some of these places.
Right. And the good thing about YouTube, especially, is that like a lot of viewers from India, of course, now so many engineering students have this dream about like whether do we do masters or do I do a PhD? Why should I do this? And they have so many questions regarding this. And like to talk to you about all such questions and get your views on these topics would be really special, and that's why I'm really passionate about this video as well in the first place. So like in the next few minutes I want to talk about few questions that my audience has brought up, and they will majorly be talking about masters from abroad, what that's about, how to get started with it, and what was your overall experience, and then probably we can talk about PhD later on. Sounds good?
Sounds good. Yeah. I just want to add that a lot of this information is hard to get very easily, right? Because even when I was applying for my master's, I could only ask a few people in my university who had gone through the same path. So I think information, especially regarding application as a student from India, is not that easily accessible. It's probably hard if you're not from one of the IITs, right? So, and I think this is a great way for me and for you to share some information that definitely should be more easily accessible.
Yeah, and of course the source is so credible and authentic, and like it's a real pleasure to have you over here with us.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you so much.
So a lot of students, they really have like this black box in which people are talking about masters. They really do not know what to expect out of it. So can you just tell me what should one expect from masters? Is it like another BTech degree and it just helps you build more authenticity?
Okay, so master's programs, especially in the US, a lot of them are professional masters. What that essentially means is that they are preparing you to take up jobs in the industry, especially in the US, which is different from research masters, which are more rare. Only a few universities offer those. Research masters, maybe I'll talk about them later, but they usually, the point of a research masters is to prepare you to do a PhD, give you research experience. But coming back to professional masters, the goal is really to get you up to speed with the latest developments in the field, especially in CS, and make you hireable, right? So in that sense, it's not very different from a BTech program. There is more flexibility in terms of what specialization you want to work in. So if you're interested in cryptography or systems, you can take more crypto or systems courses. But really, in terms of the overall experience, is not too different from doing a master's, except that it's shorter and more compact. And yeah, the end goal is to get hired by one of the top companies, or open a company of your own.
I see. So, what do you think about students who are not from computer science? Should they be more focused towards pursuing masters because it helps them build credibility if they like really target a career in software engineering? So, does it help over there?
I would say so. Because I did my undergrad in electrical engineering, and so even though I did a minor in computer science, ultimately, if you want to, someone who has a CS degree would obviously get prioritized over you, right? So if you want to get to the top of those, resume piles, I think having a CS master's or a CS degree definitely helps. Um,
Of course. But I think like that's right, but I think the number of jobs are also quite good, and if people really focus on skills these days, like I feel that like even if you talk about me, I am also from electrical engineering and I did minors in computer science, but I was able to like I know that there were restrictions. For example, when it was internship, Microsoft did not even open their gates for me. Like I couldn't even sit in the interview test. But like I think the companies are also trying to bridge down this barrier. I think that in India, probably if you want to work as a software engineer, maybe masters is not the only option. Of course, it's not the only option, but I think if you want to basically go out in US and get a job over there, probably it might be really useful over there. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. So, I mean, you know this better than I do that, if you really want to learn computer science, you don't even need a degree, right? You just need a good internet connection and a computer, right? And for the most part now with things like Colab notebooks, you can even get GPUs for free. You can get really high-end compute for free and access clusters pretty much for free, right? So to learn CS with all the content that's available online you don't really need a master's or even a bachelor's degree to really learn CS, right? But as you said, if you want to get into the US, getting a US degree is one of the easiest ways for you to just get into the system for companies to be able to hire you. Because if you're working in India and you want to get hired by a company in the US, it's hard for you to get an interview with them, and even once you get an interview, it takes some effort on their behalf to do the paperwork, right, to get an H-1B visa. Whereas if you come to the US for a master's or even a bachelor's, you're entitled to about 3 years of work on the student visa you're on.
Right.
And so that makes it easier for companies to hire you, and that's why they would prefer hiring someone with a US degree over someone with an Indian degree. So that it's really just about accessibility, proximity, and location more than the content. Definitely, I agree that you don't need a master's to learn the kind of content people end up learning.
Yeah, right. And I think it's not just it's difficult for companies or they have any selection that probably hiring from India for a US position would be costly. I think more than that, it's also about the politics involvement, like the visa restrictions. So to make life easier for you as well as for them, at that point of time, if your really dream or end goal is to work in US, probably at that point of time, it's a like good enough decision to pursue masters or any other higher education.
Yeah, absolutely. And companies are, in the end, big companies like Google and Apple, they would want to take the least amount of risk when it comes to things like hiring and especially dealing with the politics in these times, right? And so you might be a strong candidate from India, but if it's really hard for them to go through the paperwork, they'll just choose two good candidates from the US over one great candidate from India.
Perfect. Now, having talked about like what masters enables you, now I want to shift communication towards talking about what is the overall process for masters. Like, how does it look like?
Yeah, so generally people start thinking about their masters in the third or fourth year of undergrad of BTech usually, and there's a few steps that are quite well documented on the internet. You can find a lot of sources. From the top of my head, GRE, of course, is something that sucks up at least 2 months of your time because it's not the easiest exam. I won't say it's hard, obviously, if you're prepared for engineering and you've gone through 2-3 years of your engineering. It's not hard compared to that, but it's a different kind of exam. You have to focus on your language skills. You have to learn a lot of words. So it just takes time. It takes about 2 months. You have to give the TOEFL exam, which is a piece of cake. It's a cakewalk right after giving the GRE. But most importantly, you need to have a fairly good GPA, unfortunately. Just because they see so many applications, it's easier for them to just filter on the basis of these criteria like GRE scores, GPA. So usually having a GPA of 8 above I would say, is quite important. Having the GPA above 9 would be great. And in addition to that, you need to write your statements. So you need to write a statement of purpose generally that outlines a bit about your background, what work you're interested in going ahead in the master's, why you want to pursue a master's. And finally, letters, right? So you need letters of recommendation from people you worked with. Either they could be academics, so professors you worked with on research projects maybe, or they could be mentors or other colleagues at companies or bosses if you've interned or even if you worked at some of these companies. But the key important point is that they should be able to talk in a good amount of detail about the kind of work you've done, their experience working with you. And it should just be genuine, and they should be able to attest to your skill.
Right.
Instead of just writing a flowery general letter that is not personalized towards you. Right? So that's pretty important because people do, especially in the hiring, in the admissions committees in universities, people pay a lot of importance to the letters and who are writing the letters.
I see. So you are saying that they should be authentic as well as detailed at the same time, giving a clear indication of what this person did when I was working with him and or her, and
Yeah.
how did I feel about working?
Yeah, absolutely. A common misconception when people are applying for masters, and I see this when someone sends their statement for me to review or something like that, is that people tend to use just a lot of jargon, a lot of big words, a lot of GRE words to make it sound fancy. But you don't have to do that. You have to keep it simple and you keep it honest with a good amount of detail, because ultimately you want to show that, especially for a CS masters, that you know what you're talking about, right? So if you've worked in machine learning, just describe your project in detail. Right? If you've designed a new algorithm or data structure, just talk about the whole process. How did you come up with the idea? Maybe a few technical details, and that's all right. You should really show them that you understand the content. It's not so much about the language; it's about
Got it.
conveying and communicating that you understand the subject matter, and that can be done with the simplest of language, and that's completely fine.
Got it. And that's interesting. Like I heard that you mentioned in the starting of your answer that people generally or students generally like get serious about masters when they are in their third year or fourth year, right? And that's exactly one of the reasons why I have made so many videos about why people should always maintain a good CGPA from year one. And
Yeah.
a lot of times this happens that you are finally in your third year and you are like, all right, so the prerequisites for a good master's is a good CGPA, which I have already like crapped a lot. And then the next thing which is required is projects. Oh my god, I never did internships or any research. So these are the mistakes. Like I always tell people that in your first and second years, probably it's a phase where you have so much of freedom and it's quite enjoyable. So you should do that. But at the same time, you should be safe and always prepare like really good in your academics, as well as try to do explore different things, do internships or any research if you want, so that later on if you reach the point where you are really interested about masters, you should not feel helpless at that point of time that I'm
Yeah,
doing.
you hit the nail on the head with that one, because if you're preparing for these entrance exams, 11th, 12th is a very stressful time, and you enter undergrad, first year, everyone's having fun. You want to have fun. You should have fun. Um, we also want to remember that the first year is when it's easiest to score grades, because you're doing the easier subjects then, right? So for me, I mean, I definitely do think I had some fun, but I would study just 1 or 2 days before the exam, or just enough to get a decent grade. You don't want to close doors for yourself at the beginning of your first year, right? Because if you end up with a low grade, it's only an uphill battle from there. You have to work really hard to get your grades up. So
Right.
completely agree. I mean, have fun in your first year, but also just keep it at the back of your mind that you can't let your GPA slide completely, right? Don't have fun, but just keep that balance.
Exactly. And I think it's also easier to score good CGPA or grade point in your initial years is because the majority of the competition would be like really less, because everyone is in that mode that they are not really putting in so much of hard work. So it's a very easy way, I would say, and it's a smart decision to really have a good score in the first
Yeah,
2 years.
and I think, yeah, as you said, the content itself is easier than what you did in 11th and 12th, and the kind of effort you put in, because now you just have to give exams for 2, 3 chapters at a time, right?
Right.
Uh, Instead of the whole syllabus from 2 years that we prepared for. So it's easier. It's just that people's priorities change, and they swing very wildly, right?
Awesome. So, just to make it more clear, like I want to talk about Google has removed this, and I think even other companies have removed the requirement of a degree. And I know that we have touched upon this, but do you have any final views on this topic? Like, if Google has also removed everything,
Yeah.
like all they need is your skills, right?
Yeah.
So probably it might also happen that they might be interested in hiring Indians for US jobs. And I have seen few of my friends directly went from college to US.
Yeah.
So how do you want to sum this up?
Yeah, as we discussed, right, it's very possible to learn computer science by yourself without a college education. The only difference is that Google really hires, or at least millions of people apply to Google. I think in 2014 or 4, 5 years back, about 3 million people applied to a job at Google, which means that they have to sort your resumes in some way, right? And clearly, that sorting is not unbiased. They don't have a random sorter there, or they don't even just sort in the order in which they get applications. So it's really about that sorting, right? What are the keys they use to sort those algorithms? And that is really what is determined by the qualifications you have, the degrees you have. Having a degree from a good master's program really just puts your resume on the top of that pile makes it easier, because a lot of people apply to Google but they don't hear back for months, right? So even though on paper they've reduced the technical qualifications required, especially in terms of degree,
Right.
it's really about that sort, right? When you're looking
Got
at
it.
3 million papers,
Makes sense. Right. So I think it definitely helps in making you a priority when you're applying to different companies. And second, I think it also adds value because you are, like, if you are doing full-time masters from US, for example, I think you are also gathering a lot of experience working with people from all different kinds of caste and religion and different countries. So you develop your communication skills. Probably you are doing from US, so your English communication will also improve. And at the same time, you are doing this full time. So probably it's a good way to dedicatedly spend time building your skills and growing as a person, which will eventually help you throughout your life.
completely agree. Doing a master's or a degree at a place, say in California, or they're closer to some of the tech hubs, definitely helps you build on your soft skills on how you interact with people, especially when it comes to working. How well you get to work um, with teammates from different cultures, from different countries, definitely. And more importantly, it also helps you build a network, because everyone here is interested in something in tech, right? In doing something in
Yeah.
CS. And a lot of these people end up doing really great things at different companies, especially just because there are so many companies doing so much here. You will end up knowing people who has this role at Uber, another person who's doing something at Airbnb, and it really expands your scope. And it really, at the end, it boils down to just having a great network expands the kind of opportunities you get exposed to, and you
Yeah.
get to hear about teams you wouldn't hear about otherwise, right?
Right.
So
And talking about that, I mean, since we were closely related to like IIT journey, so that's one of the reasons why I have you in my network, right? So, and here we are talking about so many different things after so many years. So, I think doing masters abroad would probably help in network, and network give you really good surprises later down the road when you really don't know.
I think it comes back to the sorting thing, right? If you know someone who's at a good position in a in a certain company, and they can attest to your skills, that just bumps up your resume in the pile if you're applying to that company, right? So if you
Makes sense.
just think of it in terms of sorting, it's uh, it really helps you in the long run for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, Surag, I'm glad that we have covered a lot of different things about masters, and now I want to navigate into like how expensive masters is. Probably because a lot of Indian families might not be able to afford this, and scholarships also play an important role. So, can you please touch upon that now?
A great question. I think one reason why a lot of people are scared of the idea of doing a master's is the cost, and it's a great reason, especially in the US.